Normally I say the Lord's Prayer in the ancient Aramaic language, but I want to do something different this morning. Instead of saying this prayer in Aramaic, I want you to do something different. I want you to say Aramaic, but not the prayer. I want you to respond to the words of Jesus, but in Aramaic, and I'll teach you. I want you to feel the power of these ancient words that came from the lips of our great master teacher. When he said in Aramaic, aton and non, milcha dar'a. Then the second thing he said was, aton and non, nure dalma, which in English is, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. But I want you to feel the power of these ancient words from this very ancient language. The power in it. And this is how I want you to respond, and I'll help you with it. I want you to close your eyes. Put your hand over your heart. And as you say it, I want you to tap your heart. Tap it. Because what you're going to say is respond to it. Can you imagine anywhere, in any church, going anywhere, this is the only place I know where I've heard it, where the first thing you walk in and you hear, you are the light of the world? Most churches we walk into, we're sinners. We're not worthy. We're no good. And imagine Jesus, the first thing he speaks to the crowds of people, and he says to them, he didn't ask them what they had done in their life, what they went through, but the first thing he says to them is, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. We've lost a sense of who and what we are. And Jesus came reminding us with power and glory and understanding that we are light and we are salt. So I want you to say that in Aramaic. I am the salt of the earth. But I'm going to do it in Aramaic, and I want you to repeat it in Aramaic. Don't worry, it's not so many words as it is in English. You have to say 7 words in English. It's only 3 words in Aramaic to say this. All right? Close your eyes now and tap your heart as you say it, as you say it. Enana. Milcha. Dar'a. Enana. Nure. Dalma. All right, repeat it again. I am the salt of the earth. Enana. Milcha. Dar'a. Enana. Nure. Dalma. Now in English. I am the salt of the earth. I am the light of the world. Again, I am the salt of the earth. I am the light of the world. Oh. When you tap your heart, you awaken your being. That's what you are. You are salt. And what will we do without salt? Come on, can you think of eating anything without salt? And don't listen to the baloney things doctors tell you. Salt is bad for you. Salt is good for you. Just don't eat too much. You are salt of the earth. I like the word for salt in Aramaic. Milcha. That's salt. Milcha. And when you say I am, enana. And of the earth, dar'a. Enana, milcha, dar'a. Enana, milcha, darha. And the word for light is nuhra, but because it's of the world, you have to say nuhre. Enana, nuhre, dalma. I am the light of the world. That's how Jesus was always outgoing. And that's why he turned to people and told them, you are light, you are salt. I wonder if any minister ever said that behind the pulpit when people came in to church. Hey folks, you are really salt. You are really earth, the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. Imagine if we were told that from the time we were children. The beauty of it. I just had to do that. I couldn't do the prayer. I had to do that with you this morning. The presence is too powerful here. So I know we're following this book, The Prosperity Secret of the Ages. Remember, we talked about prosperity, been talking about it now. And the word prosper means more than just to survive. It means to flourish. To flourish. And that's what we're doing. And my subject is, and I have a little surprise because I did something different. The subject is the secret of overcoming challenges. Chapter 5, she says overcoming difficulties. And Catherine uses the 4th chapter in the book of Genesis. And what I did is I retranslated, that is, I translated, not the entire 4th chapter, just the first 16 verses of Genesis from Aramaic, because I want you to get the story. Because most people don't understand the story of Cain and Abel, and that's what we call it, the story of Cain and Abel, but it's not. It's the story of Adam, and we say Eve, and Cain, and Abel, and Seth. But I want you to listen carefully to the translation, because I used their names in Aramaic and the Hebrew. So it's going to sound a little different. And if you want to follow in your scriptures, you can. It's the 4th chapter. But this is my translation from Aramaic. Now remember, this is a story. And it was written in a story. And most people don't realize it was a much larger story, but the biblical scribes condensed it. And they just got the necessary things in there. So here it is. I translated the first 16 verses, but then I jumped down to the 25th verse, because you need the 25th verse. As I explain these names, you'll see. Now, Adam had intercourse with Hava, his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. So she said, I have gained a man for Lord Yahweh. Then again, she gave birth to his brother, Habel. Now, Habel was shepherding sheep, and Cain was farming the land. And it was after some days that Cain brought from the fruit of the ground an offering for Lord Yahweh. And Hubble also brought from the fattest of the firstborn of his flock. Now Lord Yahweh was delighted with Hubble and with his offering. Most people don't recognize this, but you've got to see why the repetition. It says, now Lord Yahweh was delighted with Hubble. That's what's first. Got to think of that. He was delighted with Hubble and with his offering. But with Cain and with his offering, he took no delight. So Cain was exceedingly displeased, and his demeanor became gloomy. So Lord Yahweh said to Cain, why are you displeased? And why is your face so gloomy? Look here. If you will do right, I will accept it. But if you will not do right, then sin is lying against the door, and you will turn to it, and it will rule over you. So Cain said to Hubble, his brother, let's go out into the countryside. And so it happened that when they were in the open country, Cain rose up against Hubble, his brother, and killed him. Afterwards, Lord Yahweh said to Cain, where is Hubble, your brother? And he answered, I don't know. Indeed, am I my brother's watchman? Then Lord Yahweh said to him, what have you done? The voice of the blood of your brother is calling out to me from the ground. So from now on, you are cursed from the ground that has opened its mouth and received the blood of your brother from your hands. When you farm the land, it will no longer yield to you its life force. Fearing and wandering you will be throughout the land. Now Cain responded to the Lord Yahweh, great is my evil doing that it cannot be forgiven. Look, you have driven me out today from this region of the land, and I will be hidden from your face, and I will be fearing and wandering throughout the land. So it will happen that anyone who may find me will kill me. So the Lord said to Cain, no, anyone who may slay Cain, vengeance will be taken on him sevenfold. Therefore, the Lord Yahweh put a mark on Cain, so that anyone who may find him will not kill him. Now Cain went out from before Lord Yahweh and dwelt in the land of wandering, on the east of Eden. But it doesn't close there. You've got to go to the 25th verse, which remedies the whole story. Now again, Adam had relations with his wife Havah, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. So she called his name Sheth. So she said, why did she call him Sheth? So she said, because God gives to me another child in the place of Hubble, whom Cain killed. You got the whole story now. the secret of this. What's behind this? What do we see? First of all, before I go into the metaphysical meaning of it and some of the things that Catherine said, which I'm going to bring out, but also some of the deeper meanings of the name. You have to figure out the meanings of the name. Cain, first is Adam, then Hava, which we call Eve. Hava. Remember, this is Jewish, isn't it? And Habel. And then Sheth. So you have all those names, and they all have meaning. The word or the name Adam, means earthy, but what it represents is your intellect, your wisdom. Hava, which we call Eve, Hava, represents your emotion and love. But one other thing, which isn't in the book, life. Life, because this is something you got to realize what this is when I nail it down more. So you have Adam, which is the intellect and wisdom, and then you have Hava, Eve, which is your emotion, love, and life. Very important. You got to have that. Got to have that. Those are the two keys. Then we have Cain, which we say Cain. Cain means to gain. To gain. That's what it means. It also means to possess, which Catherine mentions in her book. But the basic meaning is to gain. That's why when Hava gave birth to Cain, she says, I have gained a man for Lord Yahweh. It's a story. I've gained a man. So the word mean there is to gain. But Habel, which we say Abel, Habel means a loss. A loss. So what do you have? First thing, gain, loss. Gain, loss. We're going to stop right there because we're not going to finish with that, because you've got to get to the next son, Sheth, which we say Seth. In Hebrew it's called Sheth, but in Aramaic we say Sheth. It means the same thing. That word, the name Sheth, means to compensate, to make up for what was lost. So you got gain, loss, and compensation. You see why I had to translate the 25th verse. So that's the actual meaning of their names. Can you imagine being called compensate? Or Hubble, loss, gain, loss, compensate. So, what is it telling us? Well, first of all, I want you to understand a little more of the story that people don't get. Why did not Yahweh accept the offering of Cain? Because no one reads the verses correctly. They think it was over the offering. Because Cain was a farmer, right? And Habel was a shepherd. They're going to bring what they worked with. So he brought the fattest of his flock. Now, you cannot picture an invisible. They're actually seeing a deity. This is a story. They're seeing a deity, and they're bringing their offering to him. So he's bringing the vegetables, the fruit of the land. And why wouldn't God accept Cain? Notice what it says. The first thing he says, and he was pleased with Habel. With whom was he pleased? With Habel. The offering was secondary. The offering was secondary, and that's what most people don't recognize. Otherwise, you misunderstand the story. You think God's rejecting the offering that Cain brought, but it wasn't that. That's why it says he was pleased with Abel and with his offering. Then it says, and he was not pleased, or took no delight is how I translate it. Took no delight with Cain, because Cain had something going on in him. You get it? And naturally, if something's going on in here, you know how sometimes people give you something, but you feel another motive with it? Huh? Come on now. You never had that happen? You always sense that there's a little string with it, right? In other words, something was wrong with Cain. We say Cain. But no one reads it. No one reads it that way. They always think of the offering. He says that he took no delight with Cain and with his korbana. Korbana is the word for offering. With his gift. But it was with Cain. Because something was going on in Cain. His heart was not right. See, it's not the gift. It's the heart. It's the gift from the heart. You got it now? It's that gift from your heart that makes it right. The heart makes it right. And that's what was wrong. That's why Lord Yahweh says to him, if you do right, will I not accept it? Right? Because it's clean. The offering is clean. It's clear. And that's because he had so many things going on in him. He was jealous of his brother. He had jealousy going. He was he's the firstborn boy. And the firstborn boy in the Near East controls everything. So you got to think of Cain, that thing in us that wants to control. No, you don't have that. It's got to be, my way or the highway. This is the meaning of, I'm giving you the metaphysical meaning behind it, the control behind it. Because this name is gain. His name means gain. How are you gaining? I've always said this. How you obtain is how you maintain. How you obtain is how you maintain. So watch it when you're going for another boy or girl. You know what I'm talking about? Relationships. How are you getting this relationship? Are you conniving with it? Are you? Because that's how you're going to have to maintain it. Anything you do in life, whatever it is, whether it's money, friendship, relationship, anything, how are you obtaining it? Because once you obtain it one way, you've got to maintain it that way. And that applies politically as well. It applies to everything you do. Everything you do, and anything that anyone does, not just you or me, but anyone who does it, how they obtain is how they maintain. And we see it all around. So what you have to look for yourself is make sure you keep Adam and Hava going. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about be smart. Use wisdom. And you know what wisdom is? Wisdom is knowing how to use knowledge. That's what wisdom is, knowing how to use knowledge. People have knowledge, but they have no wisdom. And that's why we're in trouble. You've got to have wisdom to work the knowledge. So that's what Adam is. And Hava is the love and the emotion and the life. Remember, that's life. That's why I love what she says. She says, I have gained a man. That's why she named him Cain, which means to gain. I've gained a man for, notice who it was for. Not herself, not her family. But what does she say? I have gained a man for Lord Yahweh. It just says for the Lord in our English, but in Aramaic it's Maria. Maria means Lord Yahweh. I went ahead and translated. Dr. Lamson didn't do that. He kept it Lord. But I went ahead and gave the full name because that was the name of the deity at the time. Lord Yahweh. This is, in other words, to God. I did this. I've gained a man for God. We don't think that, do we? Every time we have a child, we think, this is mine. This is my baby. Right? You know, and that's how we gain a lot of things. We have that attitude, this is my baby. Now, you know, I'm not talking about a child. I'm talking about your work, your friendship. You cannot possess another person. You cannot do that. You cannot do that in a husband and wife relationship. You don't possess each other. You share with each other, not possess each other. And you got married so you can share your life together, not possess each other. There's a big difference. And this is why we have marriage counselors. Because we have to break the habit of possessing. And that's what you go to a marriage counselor for, to break that possession. You can't, even in friendship. Friendship is based on Hava. Hava. Love and life. That's a true emotion. The love of life. When you love life, you allow other people to breathe. You allow others to breathe, not just you. And by the way, in Hebrew too, I need to mention this because she does mention it in the book. She refers to it as Abel, meaning breath. But the full meaning of it, breath means nothingness. Because it's only momentary. Breath is only a moment. That's why in Aramaic, I translate the full meaning, meaning a loss. But literally in Hebrew, it means nothingness. So what happens is when Cain wants to possess, wants to hold to it, wants, again, this is mine. Once it does that, instead of the way, remember what life said? Life said, for Lord Yahweh. For the Lord God, in other words. This possession is for God. I only have temporary use of it. And your children, you think you own your children? No. And when they hit 17, they let you know that too. They want that freedom. So you better start them knowing who they really belong to. Who they really belong to. And when you realize that, and you can be free with them, you see, when you realize, yes, I had you, I'm a part of you, but you were a gift from Yahweh, and you belong to Yahweh. You belong to God. You belong to God. You came from God, and you belong to God, and I just have you temporarily. This is the meaning of this. In other words, I'm trying to go behind the scenes in this story. And it's so rich, it's so wonderful. And you got to realize too that even though they're out of the park, what we call paradisa, they're still in Eden. They're still in Eden. He just left the park. Adam and Eve left the park. Less paradise, but they're still in Eden, a temporary place. Eden means a temporary place. Still pleasurable, but temporary. And that's where they are. And here, farming, they're working and shepherding, all that. But Cain had this other working in him, this wanting to hold on to possess, to dominate. And it just doesn't work. Domination doesn't work. Even when a government wishes to dominate, you can't hold the people for so long. That's right, you can't. You cannot. Especially if you've ever tasted of freedom. And just because people don't believe the way we believe doesn't mean you can dominate them. The only thing you can do is let your light shine. Come on, be that salt. Make it tasty being around you. Right? Make it tasty being around you. Ooh, I like you. I'm going to stick around with you as much as I can. You are tasty. Isn't that what salt does? Ooh, it enhances that food. And so, when you are the salt of the earth, you are tasty. And I love being with you. Ooh, and when you get sour, it's hard being around you, see. So here's Cain. Now you got to realize something else. Notice what he did? He took him away from the home. He took him into the open country. He says to his brother, let's go into the open country. And I wish Dr. Lamsa had translated it that way, but it isn't. But that's what that word means, open country. He had to get him away from everything so you can dominate easier. You following me now? You know, that's what we do, don't we? We get it away from home. We move away from home where everything is established, where everything is on a foundation, and we move away from it. So he takes him out into the open country, and there he fights with him. Now you got to realize something, which most people don't realize this when they read the story. Cain did not know he would kill his brother. Okay, I'm going to give you more light. When God said to Adam, and he only spoke to Adam, not to Eve. To Adam, he said, because Eve wasn't around yet. And he says, of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat. For the day you eat of it, you will die. Right? Okay. If I were Adam, I would say, die? What's that? Do you understand what I'm saying? There is no concept of death. Adam has no concept of death whatsoever. And yet God says to him, the day you eat of it, you shall die. I would have to say, what do you mean? Because I want you to realize the concept of death was not in them yet. You got it? In other words, in Adam and Eve and in Cain and Abel, they had no concept of death, of human death. They had no concept of it. Even when God spoke it to Adam, it meant nothing to him. And even when Eve repeats it, that when you eat of it, we should say, oh, did God really say that? What did she know? She had no concept of it either. No one had a concept of death. No one. And so when Cain was fighting with his brother and he brought blood, that's when he awakened to death. Otherwise, he had no concept of it. In other words, he didn't go in there really to murder his brother. I know this is different. You never heard it this way before. But I'm telling it to you. And this is what you miss when you don't come to my Tuesday night classes. I tell things there I never tell here. Because people don't grasp it. We don't know how to read the Bible. Well, the minute we read the Bible, we've got our denominational glasses on. And even if you were brought up in here, you still know what other people say about it. Because we can't. You have to read it from its original setting. So he did not know his brother would die. He was angry with him, fighting him, thought he would subdue him, possess him more. But instead of possessing him more, he killed him. And that's what happens when you go after gain with a wrong attitude. When you try, what did I say? How you obtain? If you do it to possess it, to control it, to dominate it, you will kill it. You will kill it. I don't care what it is, your job, your friend, your husband, your wife, your children. Even when we try to dominate our children. No, you have to lead the way for your children, not dominate your children. And then you pray that that they'll go and follow what you do and not dominate. You with it? So here now, Cain realized he murdered his brother. He killed him. Why do you suppose? That's why God was lenient with him. Because they had no concept of death. It was Cain who introduced death, not Adam or Eve. Contrary to what Paul says in his letters. That death came by Adam. No, death didn't come by Adam. Death comes by us not understanding who and what we are. Instead of killing things in our lives, our friends, our husband, our wives, our children, our job, or whatever it is, when you know the truth of who you are and what you are, that the real being in you is Adam and Eve, that is intelligence and wisdom and emotion and love, you can give birth to another child. You can give birth to another child. Okay, let's say the Cain in you rules for a while, all right? Come on now, you all look so innocent out there. You never tried to dominate. You never, Come on, I want to see the whites of your eyes. What happened? What happened? He ran and he hid. And then the Lord spoke to him and he said, where's your brother Abel? He said, I don't know. Indeed, am I my brother's watchman? Do I keep watch on him? All the time? Then Yahweh responds back. And he says, yes, your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. It's so strong when you're reading the Aramaic. Because here, you got to picture this. You got to picture this. Who's constantly working the ground? Who's working the ground all the time? Cain, right? Cain is working the ground all the time. Now, all of a sudden, what he did was replant Abel. He then dug and buried Abel. But the blood seeped through. Instead of fruit of the land, That's why he says to him, cursed is the land. It will not release its life force to you, because the earth, the ground, what we call dirt, has the life force in it. I'm talking physically now. It has the life force in it. And that, if you didn't have that, you'd be dead, because you eat the plants that come from the life force that's in that earth. Right? And in fact, the more you can go barefoot on the earth, you'll drink some of that life force that's in the earth. But we wear shoes and we concrete everything over, and we do. And even when you try to get wooden floors, you have to put carpet over it. Come on now. But the wood is alive too, because the wood grows up from the earth. Oh, you see how powerful this story is? These stories in the scriptures are powerful when you understand them in this new understanding of the Aramaya, Lishana Aramaya, the Aramaic language. We always think Hebrew, but Hebrew and Aramaic, they're sister languages. They're twins. And the roots of all Hebrew come from Aramaic. So, he says this, the blood is coming through and calling to me. The blood of your brother. Cursed is the ground now. It will not yield its life force to you, and you shall wander. You'll go to the land of Nod. Nod was Persia. It means the land of the wanderers. And if you're wondering where he got his wife, he married a Persian woman. Iranian. That's because they were in Eden and he went further east. But it doesn't end there. This is why I did the 25th verse, where it says, and again, Adam had relations. I love it. With Hava, his wife. In other words, wisdom and intellect. Not by itself. You need Hava. You need Hava, which means life, love, right? Emotion. You need intellect and wisdom combined with love and emotion and life. Hava, Haya is life. Hava is how we say it also in Aramaic. So once, if you make that mistake, if you've killed something, I won't ask you if you've ever done that. Because, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about friendships, different things in life that you face, and you realize, I wish I hadn't have done that. There's a way out. So Adam had relations with Hava again. Yes, it was in the beginning too that brought Cain in and brought Habel in. And I love, and it says, and she became pregnant. That's what you want to do. You want your life to be pregnant. To be pregnant with what? With the good that is there. Because it comes out of a union between what? Hava and Adam. Between intellect and wisdom and what? And love and emotion and life. When you're full of life, things don't bother you. When you feel robbed is when it bothers you, right? There's only one way out of that, and that's what you got to realize. You got to get back to the original union. Get back to the original union. Regardless if it was your fault or someone else's fault, forget it. Get back to the original union and have union with Hava, with life, with love, with the truth. And when you do, you'll produce another child. And I love that she named them Shaith. Like a person's name Shay, only you put the TH at the end. Shaith. And Shaith means to compensate. And that's why she says, I named him because God, I love it, the way it's written in the Aramaic, because God gives to me another child in the place of Cain, in the place of gain, where I tried to gain things, I am compensated. I have another child. I have another life. Do you think that what you went after was the epitome of life? No, it wasn't. You may lose it, but God has something better planned for you. He has a sheath in your life to compensate any loss you may experience. Any loss you may experience, there is sheath in your life. Do you hear that? There's sheath in your life. He knows who I'm looking at. Right? This is it. And all I can tell you, I am a living example of it. I've had all kinds of things happen to me. People take money from me, people I've trusted and lost. One time I was about to lose my house and everything when I was in California, down to Zippo. And God gave to me a sheath. God gave to me a sheath. I had nothing. And someone came to me and said, I will loan you $30,000, which pulled me out of that difficulty. And of course, I paid them back. And God opened up doors. It was wonderful because I had no church, nothing. I was lecturing in the country, and everything dried up. But the minute this negative thing happened and I experienced a loss, all of a sudden this person came to me and said, I'll loan you $30,000. And furthermore, I'll give it to you on simple interest. Huh? This is in California when everything was compound. Huh? Loss. And she came to me and said that. I said, yes, but how am I going to pay her back? All of a sudden, I started getting one phone call after another. And this is true. It absolutely happened to me. And I made so much money. I was able to pay her back. He said, you can have it. Take your time and pay me back. No, I paid her back $1,000 every single month, sometimes several, because I couldn't keep up with all the speaking engagements. And I never charged very high either. But God opened the door. And gave me sheath, compensated for all the crookedness that was happening to me. I didn't do it. They were doing it to me. And I had no choice. I was subject to it. I thought. But there is a higher power. There's that that gets together. And that came in. And the awful thing about it, there's one awful thing about it, is after I paid her back and I had, all this money, I'm going to make all this, then the speaking engagements dropped down to normal. So I couldn't have some pockets swelling, That's how God works. I don't care what loss you have. When I was 12 years old and I lost my mother, and my mother and father were divorced. He was in California and we were in New York. And I lost my mother. I felt like I lost my world. In fact, I did. It was very painful for me. And my brother, I was very close. I was a father to my brother because my father had left when we came early. In fact, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't my grandfather. Because my grandfather, when my mother was carrying me, my father wanted her to do an abortion. And my grandfather stood in the way and said, no, this is the firstborn. That's how come my name is Rocco. I didn't get named after my father. I got named after my grandfather because he saved my life. I came into this world because of my grandfather. And he said, this is your firstborn. You're going to have that firstborn. He says, you'll live with me. Forget him, my father. And he took off. And But when my mother passed on, all I knew was my mother. When I was 5 years old, my father kidnapped me and wrote my mother a letter and said he killed me and buried me and wouldn't tell her where. Oh, you don't know my story. Someone wants to write mine. I can tell you all kinds of stories about it. I just never tell it. Once in a while, I'll tell it on Tuesday night. I suffered a loss, but from that, and I became an introvert. But when I hit 16, something happened to me. From 12 to 16, I lived like an introvert. You wouldn't know me. I couldn't talk. I walked around like this all the time. And my father made me take public speaking because he came and got my brother and me and brought us out to California from New York. And it was tough living because he used to beat us, especially me, for going to church. So, he made me take public speaking to try to break that introvertedness in me. And I was getting straight F's. But let me tell you, there is a God. There is a God that I don't care what your circumstances are, what you go through, who's beating you, who's taking this away from you, who's making you feel the hubble in your life, the loss in your life. There's always Shaith coming. Shaith is coming, and you'll give birth to Shaith. And at 16, I gave birth to Shaith. I gave birth to Shaith. And that's how I got into the ministry and understanding God.